Hi, everyone. Charlie Pimarini here, physician associate with Stephanie, physician associate also. We're here to talk about episode five. We're talking about the new FDA, basically lack of regulations on CBD. Came out in February earlier this year. Basically, they are declining to regulate CBD as a supplement and basically leave it unregulated. So, Steph, why don't you kind of start it off? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think there's pros and cons to
Right,
CBD being regulated by the FDA. Most companies that do get that title is because they're able to make a big payment to this government agency to get
right,
approved. So it doesn't really mean much per se as far as it being beneficial or not. There's
right,
other dietary supplements like turmeric, maca, elderberry that are
right,
also very beneficial and are not
right,
FDA approved. And
right,
in clinical practice, unfortunately, we're trained to say, oh, I can't make that recommendation because it's not FDA approved, but we're
right,
really only looking out for our license.
right,
So because sometimes depending on my relationship with the patients, I'm like, okay, are you asking for my professional advice or for my personal advice?
right.
Because I'm the queen of herbs. I drink tea every day. I
Yeah,
use herbal ointments. So yeah, I definitely think there's pros and cons to that. So with
yeah.
you having a CBD company, I mean, how do you feel about that? Like, does that affect you in any way?
No, because we still hold ourselves to high standards, and I think there was a JAMA article I think in 2017 that showed, I quoted on my website that I think it was like 40, 50, 60, 70% of CBD that they bought offline um, didn't have the stated amount of CBD, had high levels of THC that actually get you higher. So, but I think since then, COVID did a lot in the sense of kind of washing out a lot of the bad actors, a lot of people that were nefarious, fly by night. They were just in it for the money, and it really kind of is starting to settle down to where the legitimate companies are kind of starting to flourish a little bit more. It doesn't really, like you said, like how many times, how many medications a day do you write that are off label, right? Gabapentin, specifically in pain management for chronic pain, that's off label, right? And so how
Hmm.
many other medications do we write off label? A lot. Um,
That is
but
true.
I think, the FDA not regulating it is good and bad, right? It's going to come at some point because, look, Epidiolex is a drug regulated by the DEA for subset of seizures. It's a CBD derivative. Um, so there is a CBD molecule that's used in a medication. So that's what a lot of people are saying is how is this black market, quote unquote, of CBD products like that we have still able to exist when a company has a CBD molecule for a specific subset of diseases? And that's tough. That's basically like saying, taking lisinopril off market and me just making gummy bears of it and just giving it to people and saying, hey, it's going to treat your blood pressure, even though lisinopril has been, patent is using by companies and using it for blood pressure medication. So it's just a weird. I think the FDA is sitting back, waiting, and going to pounce at some point. Do you know who the
What are
biggest
they waiting for, though?
money? Because I think the biggest investors in the hemp and cannabis space are the cigarette companies, right? Because they went belly up with tobacco. Tobacco's really declined. Everything's vaping at this point, right? So no one's really using tobacco as much as they used to, but they're a big proponent of hemp, obviously. And so I think they're waiting to see how they can make the most money in the situations, right? There's already publicly traded companies, CBD Medic, CBDMD, Charlotte's Web. These companies are publicly traded. And so obviously the federal government knows exactly what CBD is. They have patents on it. Um,
Of course.
and so it's just a matter of time. And it's still complicated, right? Cannabis is a Schedule One narcotic, meaning that it has no therapeutic benefits, same class as heroin, cocaine, LSD, all these things, right? But
That's one of the reasons why they didn't move forward with regulating
right,
CBD, because
right,
they stated that there was not enough scientific evidence of the benefits that CBD has on
right.
patients.
but they own the patent on CBD for inflammation and stuff. Like, I don't understand. The NIH owns the patent. They
And
know it.
I just went on Google Scholar and I just typed CBD benefits and I got 131,000 results.
Wow. Right?
Yeah.
I mean, I think the times are changing. It's not so much of a hidden, it's not a secret anymore. When your grandma and grandpa and aunts and uncles are asking about it, I think it's coming out of the backs, the back alley, hidden, in vape shops, and now there's medical professionals like myself that have a brand, and I think it's just becoming more accepted, and people are using it more appropriately. The delivery systems are a little bit better, right? Oils or gummies versus smoking it, which a lot of people don't like doing. Um, but
No.
I think it's sad. I think they're just waiting for money, honestly, until somebody or something can donate money or there's some way for them to make this much money in it. Like we were just talking before we started filming, the supplement industry is largely unregulated anyway, right?
Yeah.
All you have to
It's
do
not.
all you have to do is put something that says proprietary blend in it, and you don't have to disclose what it is. You don't have to disclose. You have to
You
disclose.
don't even know
Right,
you don't even know the percentage of the certain supplement that you're intaking. Like let's say for vitamin C, like during COVID, how everyone was looking for
right,
vitamin C.
right,
You don't really know how much of that vitamin C you're really, really taking in because
right.
there's no reports. There's at least in the hemp industry, there's the COAs.
Right. And there's a few supplement brand regulating bodies like the NSF and a bunch of like sports therapeutics that will regulate the industry. Like if you are a college athlete and you want to take a certain supplement, it has to have certain labs have to have tested the supplement. So there are some regulations, but largely, like if you go to Sprouts or any of these places, a lot of times it's just whatever in the bottle, whatever the company made. It's not FDA regulated. The DEA is not coming through. In the CBD and hemp world, everybody wants to be CGMP certified. That just means certified good manufacturing practices. That just means you have a binder that's this big, that you paid a bunch of money for someone to tell you that your practices are okay. They used to be an FDA person. Now they're getting a butt ton of money to be an agent and a consultant, and then you get the stamp of CGMP, right? Or if you want to be an FDA registered lab, that basically just means the FDA can come in at any point and inspect you, but until they do, you're still FDA registered, right? So it's all a word game at this point.
Because there is a difference between being FDA registered, FDA approved, other one, FDA. I don't remember that one. Do you?
No.
Yeah, there's different like categories,
Okay.
but yeah, I mean, I guess we'll see what happens. We were also discussing the rescheduling, right?
Yep.
Like
Yep. I think
maybe
I think at some point they're going to make cannabis to a Schedule 2, Schedule 3 narcotic, which is like oxycodone or morphine or fentanyl. I think that's where it's going to go, which I think is a probably the best way for it. That way, you're not going to have like most providers aren't going to write it anyway. They're going to be like, I don't know anything about it. If you want it, go see Charlie at so and so's clinic. He'll write you for that. And I think holding people to the same standards that we hold opioid patients to is probably the best way to go about it. What are your thoughts on it?
no, I agree. Because I actually worked at a weight loss clinic
Yeah.
and we prescribed a lot of like
Yep.
phentermine and there's some providers or because I do women's health primarily, but I worked with a lot of OBGYNs that didn't feel comfortable prescribing those drugs. So it's fine, if as a provider you don't feel comfortable
Right.
doing it, you
Right.
you refer out.
Right.
But I also do agree that making a schedule 2 or 3 drug would probably be the best
Yep.
because it's time. Like they keep saying that there's no scientific proof, but there is.
There is. And everyone's going to point to. I mean, we've done studies show that show potential benefit, but also potential harmful effects. And yes, there's harmful effects of any medication, right? Like look at OxyContin, right? Like look at Lyrica, look at gabapentin, look at Topamax, look at all of these medications that we prescribe to patients. Listen to
Tylenol.
Tylenol, right? How many overdoses a year on Tylenol or aspirin? Um, it's the right dose for the right patient at the right time. That's what we continuously say. And I think it just needs to be regulated. Like I think the legitimate people in the CBD and cannabis world, like just give us the regulations, tell us the playbook, tell us what you want us to do, because everyone's so scared to say certain things on social media and on your website. You can't say this, you can say that. You're gonna get shut down. You're gonna get a letter. Like just tell me what just tell me what you want me to say, right? Or don't say, but don't leave me in this guessing game. And then everybody doesn't know what to do, and it just makes people, then you get more fly by night people because you get a letter to shut down. Great, I'll shut down. I'll start another company tomorrow and relabel everything, right? And um, I think hopefully, if it does become a scheduled narcotic, it'll mean a lot more legitimate providers and legitimate products, which we're seeing that a lot of. Right, a lot more products are becoming more legitimized and a little bit better, and a little bit better delivery system. So I think that's just going to make everything better.
And also, based off the reports, it seemed like they didn't want to approve it because they were concerned about the other cannabinoid derivatives that were coming out of the
Right.
hemp plant. But as I was reading that, I was like, okay, so don't you actually want to regulate it so that those derivatives come to an end, right? I don't agree with maybe all of
Right.
them because there are some, like, let's say, well, I guess THCA. Do you think that would be considered one of
I
the
don't think so.
derivatives? Not necessarily because it's actually
Natural.
naturally
Delta
grown.
8's even
So
natural too. Delta
yeah,
8, Delta 9, but like HHC, THC 0, like some of these other ones that are not. I think I think the problem is the FDA is having a difficult time is because there's such a stigma. It's so ingrained in the culture that marijuana is so bad for you, right? But also, it's so hard to regulate a plant that has 170 different active cannabinoids, plus how many
it's so
thousands of
complex.
flavonoids, polyphenols, right? All the terpene profiles. Like, so it's so hard to regulate that, and they don't know how to do it or what to do it, right? Like, it's easy mushrooms, psilocybin, that's it, bam, right? Like, you just regulate that. So I think they just have a tough time kind of figuring out what to regulate, how to regulate it, and where to go with it. But I think over time they're going to figure it out, and I hope they do because I think this industry's legitimate people like you and I in this industry are asking for it, but they're not giving it to us.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, uh,
I
I
agree.
agree, and I think if you go to some of these conferences, this cannabis or CBD conferences, you see why there's a lot of bad names. There's a lot of just people there just to get high, get Delta 8, Delta 9. They just want to get high, right? And it's like people that sometimes, you're like, people are here to get educated. They want to see new products. They want to see why this one works better than that one and not just to get stoned off their butt. But I think that's what our goal is, right? MedCanna Today is to really promote the safe and effective use of medical cannabis, which is hemp too. Um, yeah,
And that's why there's a difference between medical use and
right,
recreational use, or sorry,
right,
adult use, because that's the terminology they
right,
want us to use
right,
now. And there's always going to be a black market because of
right,
that. But we're, as clinicians, we're focusing on the medicinal
right. Yeah.
benefits of hemp, and I think like if you want it to be called a medicine, there needs to be some type of regulation.
100%, and I agree. I mean, that's a great statement. You're going to say it's medicinal, but then you don't give us any regulations, and so so hard. And I don't know if it's ever. I hope it happens sometime soon, but I don't know if it's ever going to. But I think if you make it a scheduled narcotic, I think you'll have a lot of the marijuana places around here in Arizona. The doctors just make the MMJ card. Doctors. They say you go in, you get certified, pay $150, and then you leave. But they really don't have much discussion with you about anything else. So I think making it a scheduled narcotic where you can come see me, who's educated about that, but also wants to educate you on, hey, there's other ways to treat this too. Have you thought about stretching, physical therapy, dry needling, cupping, right? Stuff like that. So I think it'll make it better. But I think it's a money thing too.
And then it'll also force clinicians to get
Hopefully,
educated on it, right? Because I mean, every year we have to do some type of CME
right,
to renew our DEA license. Actually, every
right,
2 years. So don't you have to do
yep,
opioid or controlled substance
yep,
course every 2 years before you renew? So hopefully, cannabis and hemp will be included
right,
in that, so that more and more clinicians can at least have the basic
right,
knowledge.
right. I agree. it's all about knowledge. That's what we're pushing, right? That we're creating our cannabis education course for clinicians to feel comfortable. You don't have to love it. You don't have to want to prescribe or recommend it, but you have to at least respect it and have some type of working knowledge of it. That's it. That's all we ask. Um, yeah. What
Exactly.
else?
Um, no, I think that's what we
Yeah.
really wanted
Yeah.
to talk about today. Basically, how the FDA decided that CBD was not good enough for them. But it's fine. Like we mentioned earlier in the episode, when we first started, there's
Yeah.
pros and cons. Well, we're moving forward. Patients are
Right.
using it. It's working
Right.
for them. There's plenty of clinicians that know that it
Right.
does help. So we're still here regardless of what the government
Right.
agencies
And we're going to
decide.
keep moving forward. So, with that, yep, medcannatoday.com, at MedCanna Today on social media, info at medcannatoday.com. If you want to contact us, we welcome any submissions for any articles, any people that want to be part of the podcast. Where you've got some interviews coming up. We had 2 that we had to cancel this week, but we got some lawyers, we got doctors, we got CPAs, we got some marketing people coming on board. So it's going to be a PhD in research. So we're going to have some interesting people to kind of tell us their perspective of medical cannabis. So with that, everyone have a good rest of your week. Bye.
Bye.